everyone, and welcome to the Infrastructure Services Committee meeting of 20th August 2026. Okay, please note that this is a hybrid meeting with some members and officers attending from the Council Chamber at Woodhill House in Aberdeen and some virtually. The meeting is being live streamed and the recording of the public part of the meeting will be published online for public viewing after the meeting. Can all virtual attendees activate their cameras for the duration of the meeting where possible? If members wish to speak on any point, please notify me by using the raised hands function in Teams, or if you are unable to do so, please state your name and request to speak. I will then bring you in at the appropriate time. If any members lose connection during the meeting, please take action to rejoin the meeting yourself, failing which alert the committee officer, Paige Donovan, by a separate chat message if possible. If you have any technical issues, support will be available from an IT officer during this meeting. The IT officer is Graham Davidson, who will be attending virtually. Well, I note we've got a short agenda today. If appropriate, I will obviously try to take comfort breaks should it be required. And with that, we will move on to item 1, which is a sediment and declaration of members' interests. Paige, can I ask you to take the sediment, please, by roll call?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. We have apologies today from Councillor Blackett with Councillor Gifford substituting and Councillor Crawley with Councillor Cox substituting. Members, I'm going to go through the roll call now. Councillor Turner, please.
Present.
Councillor Agnew.
Present.
Councillor Carr.
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Carney.
Here.
Councillor Cox.
Good morning, present.
Councillor Davidson. Councillor Ewanson.
Present.
Councillor Gifford.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Johnston.
Present.
Councillor Clopper.
Here.
Councillor Reid.
Present.
Councillor Ritchie.
Present.
Councillor Smith.
Here.
And Councillor Sullivan, please.
Here.
Thank you, Chair. All members are present.
Thank you very much, Paige. Do members have any interest to declare on today's agenda? If so, please indicate now using the hands up function and I will bring you in. Just take a pause a second or so. Okay. Okay, I see no hands, so we will move on. Thank you. Item 2 is a statement on equalities. Can we agree the statement on equalities? If you do not, please indicate via the hands up function and I will bring you in. Great, thank you. Item 3 is the minute of the Infrastructure Services Committee meeting of 18th June 2026. For reference, it is pages 4 to 15 of your agenda pack and it is to be considered for accuracy by those who were present for that meeting. If any member does not consider it to be a correct record, please indicate via the hands up function and I will bring you in. Again, I will pause for a second or two. Okay. I am seeing no hands, so I'm content that we're taking it that minute is accurate and so approved. Okay, item 4 on our agenda is the Q1 financial performance 2026-27. For reference, it is pages 16 to 39 of your agenda pack, and the officer presenting is Mr. Wood. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, councillors. Chair, as you say, this is our first financial performance report for the current financial year, and I'd like just to go through it in a little bit of detail, and then also to say that colleagues are here, either in the room or virtually, if there are any specific questions for myself or for colleagues. As I said, the report sets out the Q1 financial position for the services within my directorate, the report to Infrastructure Services Committee. At this stage, the services are forecast to remain within budget, which is a positive situation. However, that position needs to be seen in the context of a number of financial risks, which will require close monitoring and indeed active management throughout the financial year. The current position, as I said, the current forecast at present, all major services were forecasting to break even against the revised budgets, and as stressed, that's at a Q1 position. Similar position to Q1 last financial year. A couple of points to draw out at this stage. From a staffing perspective, staff costs are just over £1 million within budget, largely due to vacancy management, although this, I would suggest, cannot just be treated as a sustainable long-term solution. And again, we can draw out some of the impacts of that if required. In terms of the delivery of the savings that were agreed by Council in February, there were approximately £2.5 million of savings. At present, just over 61,000 has been delivered, with all other savings remaining currently on track as agreed. As I said, there's a context here, and that will be set out through risks and challenges such as income volatility. We continue to see that volatility, whether it's through planning application income, car parks, quarry sales, and indeed other chargeable services, and they can fluctuate during the year. That's not dissimilar from previous years, but again, worth highlighting. Cost pressures, we're seeing these coming through in our roads maintenance programmes, winter, landscape, and quarries. These all remain exposed to some of the weather conditions right across the seasons. And in addition, we're seeing inflation and rising material and also some staffing costs as well. I appreciate you'll be familiar with these, but again, I'm setting that context. External funding, some activity depends on grants, which may be confirmed later in the year, creating some risk if expenditure has already been committed. Infrastructure and legislative pressures, we have ageing assets, inflation and emerging duties such as those taken under the Circular Economy Act and Emissions Trading Scheme. These may create additional pressures which are not yet fully quantified. And finally, any reliance on one-off funding. Some pressures continue to be managed through reserves or one-off savings, and indeed sometimes temporary funding streams. And as you'll see, those cannot be seen as continuing to manage any recurring pressures. In one sense, a familiar picture, but again, that context. If I look slightly further out, the outlook for the year, the Q1 position does provide a reasonable starting point for the year, but again, it should not be viewed without the risks that I've set out. The key requirement will again be to maintain that discipline, identify pressures early, and take action where we can. We did this last year. Again, Q1 last year was forecast to be on budget. There were fluctuations over budget during the year, but we returned at the end of last financial year just within budget. The actual management will take place as follows with myself and the team. Regular budget reviews, and we do that working closely with our colleagues in finance, and that's that oversight of expenditure, analysing any income trends, and then forecasting those movements in line with finance advice. Any savings that we identify, we'll act swiftly on that. We'll look to track the savings delivery against milestones, and then prioritisation of spend. We continue to scrutinise that any discretionary expenditure, which these days is very limited, but we manage that and make choices around that. Indeed, choices around recruitment and the timing of that as well. That will result in clear reporting. We will come back here to provide members with transparent updates on any significant movements and open that up for discussion. Chair, in conclusion, the position is balanced, but there is recognition of risks with planned mitigations. The focus with my team will be on that strong financial control, early intervention where possible, and then clear reporting back here to have that open discussion and scrutiny with yourselves. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Do members have any questions or comments to direct to officers? Okay, if so, I'll ask you to put your hands up. Okay, Councillor Smith. Good morning, Stephen. You're first.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. Just thank you very much for the report. I think we're generally content with what's in it, and as you say, it's early days in the financial year for drawing any conclusions about direction of travel so far, and mindful of some of the pressures and known unknowns that Mr. Wood highlights. Just a comment on, it's an appendix to the revenue savings, private road and footway lighting to be switched off, which on the face of it sounds reasonable because it's a private road. If it's lit, however, it will be a public right of way, and I would just ask that topography and geography is taken into account. So if there's a reason that it's been lit due to, safety, location, close to sea or slopes or what have you, if that can be taken into account. And also just in terms of, the council's policy to encourage active travel, if there's a path that provides a direct, A to B route, where if we're going to switch the lights off and it discourages people for using it, that the detour around that is substantive and might just encourage people to say, you know what, I'm just going to take the car. Could we just look at individual sites on a case-by-case basis and take local knowledge into account? But other than that, I think we're generally content with the report. Thank you.
Chair, thank you. I'll give some comments Mr. Mackay may want to add to those. Certainly mindful of the narrative in the scenario that's been set out here. I think there's a couple of comments to this. First of all, there is an agreement to remove that lighting and save that £5,000 as per council in February. So that will happen. The second bit is that where the landowners are identified and we can communicate with them, there is an opportunity for landowners then to take control, ownership of that position. We will not be doing that, and as such, those landowners, I would say, should be encouraged to bear in mind the scenarios that you set out, Councillor Smith. Can I just check with Mr. Mackay if he wishes to add?
Chair, very briefly, I think that the director set out the position. From our perspective, the agreed position of the council was that it was stopped, and there weren't exceptions to that. So at the moment, that's what we're working through with the landowners. If they confirm that they don't wish to it, over time we will remove the light units. We won't do that quickly because there's a cost associated with that, and there's no point taking out columns until they reach the sort of end of their life. But at the moment, there's no additional criteria we're considering on that matter. Thank you, Chair.
Stephen, you wish to come back? Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Gifford. Good morning, Jim. Please.
Morning, Chair. Thanks. And thanks, Alan, for the introduction to the report. It's always good to see the budget sitting balanced, even at this relatively early stage of the year. But I was really a bit surprised to see everything absolutely in balance. I mean, you said yourself there are unders and overs and seasonal fluctuations and all the rest of it. And the one that you mentioned, I think, was £1 million underspend on staffing costs. If that's all through vacancy management, even if we filled all those positions tomorrow, we would only be getting a three-quarter-year cost coming in. Therefore, there's a quarter-year saving that I would have thought would have been reflected somewhere in here. Now, it will be taken up with swings and roundabouts elsewhere in the budget, but I would expect to see some of those fluctuations sitting there at this stage, possibly to be ironed out later as the budget progresses. Just wonder if there's any thoughts on that.
Through you, Chair. Thank you very much. Yes, I certainly take on board that point. There was a judgment call that was made. A couple of examples to explain that judgment call. Again, looking at the Q1 from last year, I think it was just over £1 million within budget on staffing. This year, it's about 1.1 within budget. So again, a similar trend coming through there. What we are finding is there's a number of things there. Whether we're advertising fixed term contracts or temporary contracts, that in itself is not attracting people in to fill those posts. So there's that, as well as deliberately holding the vacancies open. But that can also lead to.
I'll also going to email you emails I got from you.
Councillor Agnew, could you mute your microphone?
Thank you, Chair. That can often lead to either overtime payments being made, or indeed where appropriate agency staff being taken on board as well, and that can have a different spend profile to the permanent staff positions that are not being filled. So again, a judgment was made there over the overall staffing budget at Q1, whether we show those individual vacancies, which when split over about 20 budget lines were not overly material. The second example is if we look at some of the income trends for the first quarter, income is again below budget at the first quarter. And again, looking at the full financial trend and comparing that to last year, we can see that evening out. So the judgment was to show it on budget just now, but then to reflect the scenario and the risks and the mitigations rather than go through individual 50,000s, 20,000s. So it was a judgment call, Councillor Gifford.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, we don't want to put people through huge amounts of work showing us a few pence here and there, but you know, when there's big numbers being mentioned, like $1 million, $1.1 million, you would expect to see that reflected somewhere in the figures. But no, I understand entirely your logic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gifford. Councillor Cox. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Chair. Just following up on Councillor Smith's question on the lights, I appreciate it's a saving probably on the utility cost, but I'm just thinking of the practicality where we talk about landowners, where some of the landowners or the landowner could be the council itself, and as an opportunity for a community group wishing to retain the lights, clearly a transfer to take the liability away from the council and having to replace them. But it's the practicality as well of that shift from the council no longer paying for the electricity costs and how the circuit would work, where you can't isolate or potentially not isolate a number of lights in a short path. So if we could get a bit more information, so this could be relayed at the right time to our community groups. As I say, some of the lights are probably on council ground. I mean, there is a question around active travel and trying to encourage that, and then we've got the investment of the Aberdeen Berkshire Coast paths, where we are trying to develop that, and many of that could come through areas where there are lights. So it's a bit more information, Chair, coming forward. And a second question on page 39, Mr. Wood could expand on the transfer from reserves in terms of the regeneration priority town reserves. Exactly what does that mean, if it's funding that wasn't spent or could be used elsewhere? Just clarity. I'm not challenging it in any way, but just wanted that clarity. Thank you.
Chair, thank you, Councillor Cox. And on the first point about lighting, if there's more detail to come through that's not here today, then we will certainly provide that. Again, the context for that is we are currently lighting property that, subject to your comment about some of it we may own, subject to that, lighting property that we don't own. And I know that the amount is relatively small in the scheme of things. It was put forward as a £5,000 saving. We do intend to make that, and we will do that as efficiently as we can, which is, I think, as Mr. Mackay was either saying or certainly alluding to, that we would look to remove the lighting as part of other work in the area rather than specific work, so we can minimise the costs and also give time for any discussions that need to take place with landowners. So we'll certainly do that, and we'll be able to list the areas and the lights that would be impacted, so we can get information to committee on that. The second point with regard to the environment, I'm going to look to colleagues in the room if they've got more information on that. If they do, we'll provide it. If not, we can do a short note. Can I just check with Ms. White? Dina, please.
I don't have detail on the exact spend, but basically it is spend on regeneration projects that the reserve was set up for. And it just shows that £10,000 has been spent year to date. So it's a drawdown from the reserve to put it into economic development to cover the cost. Thank you.
Councillor Cox, John, okay, or do you wish to come back?
Yeah, no, that's fine. As Mr. Wood in this formal setting. On the £5,000, we've got to make sure that is value for money. But I get the idea of transferring the liability, but it's not a huge saving, and the consequences could be greater in terms of our other policies, Chair. But I'm asked the question, got some answers, and look forward to the further detail coming forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Clopart, you're next. Good morning, Anouk.
Good morning, Chair. So, yes, I think this is probably my first question at this committee. So I'm still new, so I'm asking something about the circular economy, which is noted as a risk. And I think on page 35 of the appendix. I was just wondering, as a risk, Circular Economy Act and new duties to do with it are certainly a risk. That's not what I'm asking here. But as we're talking about this, where would be the benefit of a circular economy be presented? Benefits might come back to the council and the wider public, and as a saving, as an economic opportunity, even, which might come back later on in the next report. For instance, I think it's mentioned here as waste having risks involved. Also, due to the circular economy, perhaps the waste line might be reduced. So where does that is that represented, if not in the risk register? Thanks.
Chair, thank you very much. I'll certainly kick off, and Mr. Wallace may wish to add into this. I think, as I'm hearing Councillor Clopart, I would agree, without putting words in your mouth, there's a risk that's been flagged here, but there's also an opportunity as well. I think that the risks are around any additional duties that are placed on us as a council, and then any setup costs that would arise. I think for me, some of the benefits that we continue to see would be around reduce, reuse, and recycle of materials, for example. That can come back directly through the waste budget as we are putting less material to the energy from waste plant, for example, so less tonnage, less gate fee. But also, more specifically, we can see that coming through, or should be able to see that coming through in terms of service activities. For example, perhaps buying less materials, being able to reuse, or buying from more sustainable sources as well. So we can see, hopefully, a reduction in unit price and a reduction in spend coming through. Sometimes those types of materials can come with a higher premium depending. So I think there are certainly potentials there to see some environmental benefits, some carbon reduction, but also some financial benefits if we get this right. And I think we've got a decent track record of getting this right. But can I just check with Mr. Wallace if he wishes to add anything more specific, Chair?
Yeah, through you, Chair. The one bit I would maybe add is that the way in which we use the risk register so we've identified particularly those three big areas where there's the level of uncertainty. It's also the level of control that, as an organisation, that we have over those issues, and the likelihood of them happening. So, for instance, our ability to encourage greater levels of recycling are things that sit within our strategic approach as a council, and at this committee before, we've said that that will be something that we'll be revisiting in the coming period, and we have made changes over the last few years as well. That's within our gift, and in terms of we can convert things to become business as usual. In particular, emissions trading scheme and extended producer responsibility are UK and level changes to the overall systems that we're working within, and therefore we have less direct control over those. So we have to identify those as a risk to ourselves as an organisation going forward.
Anouk, you wish to come back, or are you okay?
No, thank you. That's perfect. And as I say, I'm still new to it. So yeah, thanks very much for the explanation.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clopart. Councillor Carr, good morning, George.
Good morning, Chair. Just continuing the theme of waste, we've got various references to the energy from waste plant. So I just wondered, Alan or Ewan, we've got comments there about risks on if the plant is down on we're missing out on electricity generating revenue, and I would imagine as well there would be impacts on having to road waste up to landfill, etc., and associated charges with that. So it's just a wee note as to where we are with that project, how it's working out. This council was very much in support of the energy from waste plant and still are. I think it's a great to have that technology on our doorstep, but nonetheless we need to sort of monitor it, and it's had a few teething problems, but hopefully it's still working as desired. So just some reassurance on that front. Thank you.
Mr. Wood.
Chair, thank you very much. I think the lessons that we have learned over the last couple of years, really since the plant has been up and fully operational, has led to two things. One is I would say that the success in that we now no longer landfill as the main activity for getting rid of waste, and we are using the energy from waste plant predominantly 100%. That can vary if there is an issue with the plant, or indeed if the plant is closed for maintenance, where we will look for alternative measures. Those alternative measures are usually storage before the plant's back up and running. So very, very little landfilling, if any at all. So in that sense, there has been success in not landfilling, success in production of electricity, generating income, and also success in terms of producing heat for a district heating system, again, which produces income from ourselves. The other side is that we see some of the challenges in that relatively new technology, and also some of the market conditions that we've faced, and this council is aware of that, where we've gone through some different contractual positions. So at present, the plant is up and running as planned. We have had a recent planned closure for maintenance for a few weeks, and that was planned, and the plant is now reopened and is operating on schedule. We are currently working with our colleague councils in the City and Moray to look at the longer term position from a contractual basis, and also how we can maximise the income that we generate there, but also how we can minimise some of the waste that goes in, which goes back to the previous question from Councillor Cloppart. So overall, it's a positive story in terms of the waste and where it goes, and also reduced costs and the income generation that we're benefiting from as well. Chair.
Councillor Carr, do you wish to come back?
No, that's great to know, and yeah, there's a lot of potential benefits there for us, and we just need to make sure these are realised. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Johnston. Good morning, Paul. You're next.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you very much. Yes, I'd like to just kind of raise something on the back of what Councillor Cloppart has started on, which was, I suppose, if we are talking about circular economy, we've got to think in terms of the risks associated with how we go forward. You mentioned of the identified risks in the report, and the three larger ones that you mentioned, gate fees as one as a possibility. Could I just get a confirmation that when we took on the deal in order to do the incinerator, that there is a contract of tonnage per weight on gate fee? And it is not a movable object. In other words, the fee doesn't go up and down, because that would be pretty difficult for us to be able to control anything, but that we agreed a tonnage by a negotiated tonnage fee. And if that is the case, then the method of variation of the risk of that is in terms of the tonnage. And if so, could I just get clarification that that's the case? And then I'd like to make a comment.
If I can ask Mr. Wood to come in, then perhaps a general comment. I'm just conscious of where we're actually going. I realise the question, but some
I
of
don't
us
want to know that.
yeah. But I'll bring in Mr. Wood.
Chair, through you, the contracted position that we have is that the plant can take 150,000 tonnes of waste per year from the three councils. The three councils have different contributions into that, with ourselves being the largest contributor. If there is any capacity within that 150,000, then there is the ability for the plant operator then to look for additional waste to go into the plant up to that 150,000, and that could A, offset our any gate fees because we're not using it, and B, generate additional income as well. So that's roughly the structure that we have with that contract and tonnage and gate fees, Chair.
Okay, that's Chair.
Do you wish to come back, Councillor Johnston, please? Yes.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes. Thank you for clarifying that, because that's exactly what I thought it was supposed to be doing. Therefore, for us, the risk, there may be a risk for the incinerator project and the officers, but there is not necessarily a risk involved in the tonnage part. The tonnage part is a tonnage, which we have a capacity. Our tonnage, that is the municipal waste, needs to be evaluated. Now, the only way the government is going to deal with this is by reducing the amount of mixed municipal waste that there is going through the system. And we are successful at doing that because we are improving recycling. All our policies are there for improving recycling. The way in which the Scottish Government expect us to improve recycling is through basically through the separation of materials. And therefore, that's the element of risk. Now, we've got there are proposals in train to process soft plastics. Now, the only way that economic development in a circular economy can work is that if we take the opportunities, which means we do something with the materials that we are collecting. That's the only thing. So we need to have that crystal clear in people's minds that in order to have a circular economy on these products, we need to do something with those materials. And if so, will the reports in future please concentrate on looking at the materials which we need to use or process or capture as being the opportunity? Because it doesn't make sense, because all the system is trying to do is reduce that opportunity unless we can process the materials. It's a little more complicated. Sorry for the complication, but I do believe that's the fundamentals of running a circular economy.
Okay, I will bring Mr. Wood back in just for a general comment again, but I would actually say one thing here. What we've got is a financial paper in front of us as opposed to purely a technical sort of paper. So I'd also just bear that in mind, everybody. We're reviewing financial figures and spend as opposed to maybe the detail of what goes into each budget line. But if I can, Mr. Wood, please, perhaps a final comment.
Chair, thank you. A final comment. I thank Councillor Johnston for his comments. Certainly for me, there was a positive advert there for increasing our recycling, reducing our waste, and maybe a greater awareness of what we put in our residual black bin, because we know that there's about 50% of that can be recycled but is not. So if we can increase our recycling, reduce the amount going to the energy from waste, and then even start to design waste out of the system, that would be ideal and hopefully help our financial position as well. Chair, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wood. Councillor Johnston, content for now, or you wish to come back at all?
Content for that. Hope that he will include some issues about the risk, because that's what I was making a point about, the risk and how to deal with it, i.e. by materials, by the next report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Councillor Ritchie, good morning, Derek. You're next.
Good morning, Chair, and thank you very much. I I just wanted to spread a little bit of positivity here, because there is some positives to take out of this report, and I would thank you for the whole team for the report. I also did note this week the article that stated that here in Aberdeenshire we have the best roads in Scotland. So obviously that's a tribute to Mr. Wood and his team that we have achieved this, especially given the lack of funding from central government with regard to roads. But I would wish to thank the team, and I'm proud of the fact that we have the best roads in Scotland. Thank you.
I will ask Mr. Wood if you would like to make a comment on that, please.
Chair, thank you. Councillor Ritchie, thank you very much. And I'll break with tradition. When there's good news, I'm never far away from accepting that. But I think I'll take the Mr. Wood and his team and focus on the team element there for this one. Certainly Mr. Mackay through and his team deserve the credit for the work that's been done over many years, putting us in this position. We are absolutely not complacent, and it's not something we're going to shout about, because we know people have some real issues with the in some cases the road maintenance, but that assurance that we're actually working through the issues and we're addressing them as quick as we possibly can, I think is manifested in that statistic. So thank you for raising it, Chair.
Councillor Ritchie, Derek, do you wish to come back?
No, I just, as I say, I want to thank the whole team for what they do. And I know that people can zone in that pothole outside their house, but and then it can be annoying. But the bigger picture is the size of the road network that we have here in the Shire, and obviously other people are recognising the good work that we're doing here. So thanks again. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Councillor Ritchie. I will just going to rephrase my question slightly now that you started the way and pointed on the positive, etc., of the news that came out on the roads. I actually did have a question in relation to surface defects, and back to what was our budget cycle we had earlier on in the year, where we actually put what was additional money at the disposal of the roads to actually help address surface defects. Now, while I recognise that it sits within the budget and everything there in the budget line, what I would just look for is some sort of comment assurance just as to how work has come through, dare I say it. I know we're looking at through to the end of June, but my second point is, well, a little bit back to where Councillor Gifford was actually heading. We're actually halfway through Q2 as of today. So I kind of wonder, just if it's anecdotal, I'll maybe look past Mr. Wood to maybe Mr. Mackay to actually provide some sort of input and context as to how the spend has actually been on that additional money it went through, and just what sort of things you've got planned or have actually achieved.
Chair, thank you very much. Yeah, no problem. I can give a bit of an update. And like you said, it's a wee bit anecdotal, so take some of these numbers with a little bit of pinch of salt. We'll confirm as we go through. One of the elements that we did to accelerate work was we let a contract with an external provider to come in and supplement our own jet patcher injection machine. Jet patcher is a trade name, so there are other variations available, but basically it's a machine where it injects bitumen and aggregate under pressure into the defect and repairs it in one go. So that's a £400,000 contract from that 1.8 million that we've let, and members will have seen the machine going around. It's moving up into Mar North. I think there's a second machine coming to deploy that contract. We're about a third of the way through it at the moment. We've completed around 700 defects have been completed through that actual contract at the minute. That's 230 odd jobs, but there's been about 700 potholes, cracks, surface deformations as part of that. So that's about 400,000 of the 1.8. To build in some long-term benefit from that 1.8, we are also in the process of replacing a JCB standard C3X excavator with a Pothole Pro. We've got one of those in our fleet already, and we'll be bringing another one in. So that had been scheduled to be replaced with a standard machine, so we'll replace it with a Pothole Pro. The additional from that is likely to be funded from the 1.8. That'll give us a long-term benefit from that money, not just in year. What also does is it helps us remove some of the manual elements around about a pothole repair, which is very, very good for getting a hand-arm vibration exposure down for our workforce. A recent study by Independently had suggested the Pothole Pro can reduce that by about 95%, which is great because hand-arm vibration is obviously a big thing in our sector, and it's really debilitating disease, so that's really good. We're considering there's 2 JCBs ready for replacement next year. We're considering whether we'll top them up to Pothole Pros as well from the 1.8. We need to have that discussion about when we can maybe get those ordered. Other thing for just long term, we're considering adding a second spray injection machine to our own fleet. We have one at the moment, and I've just told you we've taken 400,000 to buy one in. To actually purchase a machine is about 280 to 300,000. So we may look to do that. That leaves us about 1.2 million. What we've been doing with that is structural repairs with that 1.2 million. That's part of our surface dressing programme. So it's £6 million surface dressing. But before we can surface dress, the road needs to be competent. So what we've been doing is structural repairs. At the moment, we are sitting at about £1.5 million of spend on structural repairs. We had some money in the capital plan already for that, so this tops that up. That means to date we've actually done structural repairs about 13,500 square metres of structural repairs. So if you think about buying carpet in your house, it's a lot of carpet. That also allows us to do more surface dressing. Surface dressing season is just complete. We've still got some lining to do, but the main schemes are complete. 60 schemes done, about £3 million worth of expenditure, about 64 kilometres of road have been surface dressed, which is about 40 miles in old money, I think. So, you know, that's a big, big investment. But when you think the size of our network at 5,500 kilometres, it's still fairly modest. So we're on track to spend the 1.8. But I think it's really important to recognise that that's on top of what we would normally be doing. So just I downloaded some figures this morning. Since April, we have repaired around about 3,500 defects. Now, they're not all pothole type defects, but the pothole classified ones are about just over 2,500. But that's defects. There's probably around about 3 potholes per defect on average. So that'll be close to about 7,500 potholes been fixed since April, which is really good. Outstanding, we still have about 7,000 outstanding, and that's not a static figure because every time we do inspection, we'll find another one. So, you know, we're kind of, I suppose, holding our own at the moment. One element I think is really important to highlight, though, and this I think taps into that disconnect that Councillor Ritchie maybe mentioned about best roads in Scotland, but then individual constituents still worried about a pothole and annoyed about a pothole outside their property. We have a number of defects on the network that are not actionable. We don't intend to fix them. They're not at that threshold. I downloaded that figure this morning as well, and there's about 10,500 potholes that the public have identified it's a defect. It is a defect, absolutely. The road's not pristine, but it's not at a level that we want to take action at the moment because it's not a high enough safety risk. So we do have a number of what I would call serviceability defects. They're not safety critical. We would like to get them fixed, but we're not actually planning to fix those. And that's sometimes a difficult message for us to communicate. We simply just don't have the budget availability to do that. So it's positive, the 1.8. It's certainly making a difference for us, but I think not wanting to rain on our own parade, it is still a relatively small investment for the scale of work we have to do. I just got the latest Scots backlog figure in, which is calculated independently. I think our roads backlog, if I remember correctly, and don't quote me, this one I read this morning, is about 133 million of just for the road surface itself. That doesn't take into account bridges or street lights and that. So that's up slightly from the last calculation in 2023. Not hugely, but it's up a little wee bit. So we're just about holding our own at the moment. But I will pass on everyone's kind words because it is hard work for the team at the moment, and anything that shows that we're doing a relatively decent job with the resource we've got is I'll pass back on to the team. Thank you, Chair.
Say thank you very much, Mr. Mackay. It's more detailed than what I was expecting in some respects. It was a general question. I thought it was quite important. I did have one other, and that was back to, again, I'm sitting halfway through quarter 2, and I'm used to looking at finances in terms of plus or minus say 5%, etc. And if there's something basically appeared, it's I realise this is through the end of June, but we're still, dare I say it, we're still on track, and there's nothing that came up. It would be my question. It's hard, how would you put it? It's alerted us. It's huge in the last month and a half that we're concerned about. That would be my question, and generally, if I could, maybe Mr. Wood.
Chair, I am confident that the team will be able to utilise the full amount of budget. There's a couple of caveats I've got, and Mr. Mackay may have more than that. One is there's always the weather dependent element as well, and certainly as we've seen in recent years, that can be quite significant. The second element is, as I touched on in my initial briefing, was around cost inflation, and there may be a discussion at future committees around do we reduce the amount of service that we can provide to stay within budget because the cost of materials are higher, or do we continue with the agreed level of service but we look to mitigate those increased costs from some other part. So there's the financial element, which I'm confident we can meet subject to those two caveats, but there's also that deliverability of that service where materials are starting to cost more, particularly in terms of fuel. So those will be a couple of caveats, but again, if Mr. Mackay wants to add to that, Chair.
Chair, yeah, I'm quite happy to come back in. I think there's nothing at the moment that is huge that's popped up since we finalised that report with finance colleagues. It is a fairly dynamic picture, though, as anyone who saw local media over the last 48 hours will see. We get things that crop up all the time that we've got to factor into our budget setting, and it will tend to get us to reprioritise workload. So that just is ongoing. An element that the director just touched on there is we balance our winter provision as well. So while we would, in an absolute ideal world, we would spend all the road maintenance monies in the summer and the autumn, we actually need to keep some back for the January, February, March period, because then we'll see some damage coming onto the network from winter. We also have to recognise that it's the same people who do winter maintenance who do road maintenance, so it's like a bit of a seesaw. If it's a really hard winter, I'll spend more money on winter and I don't need the road maintenance budget, and if it's vice versa, I need to keep them busy on road maintenance. So we need to hold a little bit in reserve, and then we try and tidy it up at the year end. But at the moment, Chair, we're in as good a position as I'd expect us to be at this early in the year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so you've got a couple of more hands up. So Councillor Ritchie, I'm conscious you've had an opportunity already, so I will move first of all to Councillor Sullivan before coming back to you. Councillor Sullivan, good morning, Mel.
Hi, I just wanted to follow up on something Mr. Mackay said about the non-actionable defects. One thing that does come up time and again in community council meetings, etc., is why don't we fix things when they are small rather than letting them get big? And I do try to explain that we don't have the money to do that. It's basically a case of running around and firefighting. Not literally. Sorry, bad analogy at the moment. But we do have, as part of the bridges budget, like a stitch in time section for fixing small things before they become big things. So has there been any analysis or consideration made of this kind of approach with the roads budget? Are there areas where a small pothole would be it would be better financially if we fix it now rather than waiting for it to become actionable later? Would that save us money in the long run? I mean, obviously it wouldn't work everywhere, but is there any analysis for it on, I don't know, high-speed roads or heavy traffic roads?
Okay.
Thank you.
I will bring in Mr. Mackay. What I will say to members, yes, I asked the question on potholes. It wasn't meant that we were going to have lots and lots of detailed discussion on potholes or any other item. It was relation to finance and just an update, just operationally where we're at. Mr. Mackay, please.
Cheers. Thank you. The answer to that is yes. We do consider that all the time. I think there is, considerable amount of evidence out there that prevention is better than cure. So the very simple answer to your question is it'd be better if we don't have any potholes, and that would be the cheapest way of doing it. And that's what our asset management plan says, that if we intervene before the pothole forms, then that's by far the cheapest way. Unfortunately, with the road network, what we have at the moment is defects that are at that present moment in time a safety consideration and a serious one. We don't have the same in our bridges. So in our bridges stock, we are absolutely able to take a more asset management based approach rather than a strict user safety based approach at the moment. So it's a slightly different type of assessment of the level of risk. But that the fundamental principle that you outline is exactly the one that we would strive to be at. At the moment, we simply aren't in a position to be able to do that. I think it's difficult to explain. I always use the windows analogy, and sorry if this sounds a little bit patronising, but if you think about your own house, if you don't paint the windows one year because you can't afford it, next year you've got to put putty in, the year after you've got glass in, 10 years down the line you're replacing all your windows. So it's a very simple analogy, it absolutely makes sense. But if you're, and here's my analogy that maybe extends it a little bit, but if your gas boiler is leaking CO2 or CO1, carbon monoxide, you will do that and you'll spend your money on that irrespective of needing to paint your windows, because the safety element is critical. And that's the simplest way I can think of explaining what we're trying to achieve. And that's a very balanced approach. But of course, we would love to be doing every pothole based on an asset management approach that stops the condition of the road network getting worse. We just simply have higher priorities at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
That's exactly what I thought. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Ritchie, you wish to come back. I will ask you to be brief, please.
It's okay, Chair. There was a moment there, but the moment's gone. Thank you.
Okay. So I see no further hands from members. So I will take us back to what is page 16 in our report pack. And we have 6 recommendations set out there on there. The first 4 are to consider and comment. I believe we have done that. 1.2.5 is to approve the committee budget variants as detailed in Appendix 5. And 1.2.6 is to agree to receive regular performance reports and updates actions taken to mitigate potential pressures. Are we content to accept those recommendations as set out? Agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, item 5 in our agenda is the Economic Development Service Strategy. It's the biannual review. For members' reference, it's pages 40 to 95 of your agenda pack. And the officer presenting the report is Kelly Wiltshire. Kelly, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is to inform the Infrastructure Services Committee of the ongoing work of the Economic Development Service in implementing our service strategy. And Appendix 1 goes through some of the ongoing work and achievements that the team have been doing. And Appendix 2 is an economic impact assessment of the Business Gateway service that sits within economic development. So I will go through a quick overview and some brief examples that have been highlighted in Appendix 1 of the work that we're doing, and I'll be happy to take any questions on this as well. So just to start with the Invest Aberdeen team, we have had a number of delegations and visits over the last few months, and the team also attended UK Reef in Leeds. This has led to a number of leads and ongoing inquiries for inward investment to the region. In terms of the sectoral support team, they have been doing an awful lot of work. The creative team have been involved in a lot of filming and helping facilitate filming. One of the recent highlights has been the film Odyssey, which many of you may have seen, and we're now trying to capitalise on the tourism and economic impact coming from that film, which was partly filmed at Findlater Castle, and the ongoing tourism that we'll have in Banffshire and the Murray Coast as a result of that film. In terms of food and drink, there's been an awful lot of work going on with promoting our suppliers and the work and the businesses around food and drink. We've had a lot of shows and things recently, not least the Royal Highland Show, which was Aberdeenshire's presidential year. So we actually had a whole Aberdeenshire stand at the Royal Highland Show, showcasing the food and drink of this area. We also had the Global Agri-Tourism Conference earlier this year at P&J Live as well. So there's been a huge amount of promotion of food and drink in Aberdeenshire recently. From the employability team, our key workers have been busy supporting people into work, apprenticeships, education training and volunteering, and are continuing to support the PACE activity and people that are at risk of redundancy. And you'll see in the Appendix 1 that there are a number of testimonials and case studies there. We're also continuing to work with employers in terms of paid work placements and also trying to reduce barriers to work. For example, we're working closely to try and increase the amount of childcare that's available, which also includes actually training and paying for people to go through the training to actually become childminders. And we're also delivering some wellbeing support to people who are trying to seek employment. In terms of the place economy team, they've been doing an awful lot of work around the upcoming restaurant week that's happening, and also some of you will be aware that we're currently doing a public vote for the Heart of the High Street Awards, which the finalists will have been announced, and the final is going to be held at an award ceremony next month. The report also has an overview of the place-based investment programme in Aberdeenshire, and also gives an overview of the work that's happening in terms of community wealth building strategy and the Energy Development Charter, and an update of the very well attended event in March on that. The Investments and Projects team, which does an awful lot of the external funding for the council, has recently been expanded to include the Programme Management Office for the North East Scotland Investment Zone. So that is to help with our role as the accountable body for the investment zone. They've also been trialling a grant finder piece of software that will help support our community groups to not only be able to access grants that we have, but other organisations may be able to have as well to support them. The team have also been working with the improvement team to set up a corporate grants group to help streamline processes in terms of grants as well. And there's also an overview within the appendix of the Coastal Communities Challenge Fund. And finally, there is an update on the Business Gateway Service. As you'll be aware, they now have been in-house within Aberdeenshire Council for 2 years, and they support businesses across both Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire. So over the in 2025-26, they supported 4,627 unique clients. 2,394 of them were based in Aberdeenshire. And in Appendix 2 of the report, there's a much more detailed economic impact assessment that has been done of the Business Gateway Service, which really showed really strong value for money for the Business Gateway Service, with a BCR of 6.1 in 2024-25 and 6.6 in 25-26, the highlights of which are in the covering report there. And Chair, I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Kel. I will say this is one of the reports I actually personally look forward to. I do like and I like being involved, and I like seeing what the economic development team actually does, working with the various parts of the communities and everything on it, and business, individual businesses, etc. Some of the stories are actually really good when you hear about it, and certainly some of the feedback I've had from Business Gateway has actually been really good as well. Just some of the stories and ideas that they come away with. But on that, I will ask members if you have any question. I'll just ask you if you can raise your hand, please, or comments on this report. And with this, Councillor Cox, John, you're first, please.
Thank you, Chair. Some of it we will be aware that in previous times I have asked for more detail, and I have to say that the report before us is very comprehensive. So welcome that significant change. It is very informative. Chair, I would hope that maybe there's further discussion at area level regarding the report later at the day to go into some of the finer detail and some of the activity that takes place. But yeah, I read the report and very, very good. I'll just make a couple of points in regard to the Odyssey film, where we should be capitalising in that, but it's not just that. It was the number of films that took place, or the filming in the northeast here, Macduff and Portsoy. So it's clearly evidence there that this is a very good location to attract filming, which certainly in the Odyssey film is the impact. I think it's one of the largest grossing films for a while. Is that the huge potential around that, and would ask that a bit more detail how we can maximise, capitalise on these opportunities in a future report, Chair. So welcome the report. Clearly a lot of good work, but if the opportunity for us to discuss it further at area committee would be welcome. Clearly we've got potential risks coming down in terms of the economy, and we want to be in the front foot how we address those. The transition from oil and gas isn't just the renewables, it should be enabling and facilitating business startups and how we can do that. But there's a lot of that touched on in the report, but it's back into the delivery of some of these things. So on that point, thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I'm going to look to Kelly, but I think some of it could be informal as well, as opposed to actual pure papers and everything. But I will look to Kelly, please.
Yes, we're absolutely looking to capitalise as much as possible on the Odyssey film. So happy to prepare a separate briefing for that, either to come as a report or a more informal briefing on that. And yes, absolutely, we can go into more detail around what we're doing in terms of skills and transition from oil to gas, and diversifying our economy as well. And obviously we'll be doing updates in terms of the North East Scotland Investment Zone, which is a big part of that as well.
Councillor Cox, do you wish to come back?
No, that's fine, Chair. And as always, your indication, whether it's formal, informal, whatever, it makes no difference, and we'll go with how you see the best way to go forward. But I think it is important to have that local information fed in one way or another. So welcome your response and the officers. Thank you.
No, thank you, John. Just try and make it as easy as possible in some respects. It's often better. It's a briefing and informal discussion as opposed to formal papers. Might just be particularly things that's moving targets as well, but leave it to the officers. Councillor Davidson. Isabel, good morning.
Good morning, Chair. I don't really have any questions. I really just want to thank you for this paper, and absolutely would like it to carry on, because it is really exciting to see all the work that goes on in the North East, for economic development and the support that businesses and individuals get through the service, and the huge amount of achievements. It's good to know that there's all this inward investment opportunities happening, and I've had really good reports back from businesses that attended the Highland Show and found that a really valuable experience. So, that sort of thing is just such great news, and promoting Aberdeenshire as a whole. And I did enjoy the Odyssey. I was a bit daunted by 3 hours, but it passed amazingly quickly, and it's good to see the local area captured in the film as well. Business Gateway provides a fantastic service to entrepreneurs and people needing business advice. And again, that's so welcome in this area. And I think that it would be good to go to area committees, so we could maybe drill down a bit into what's happening in each of our areas. I think that's really important for us to be aware of opportunities and try to make sure that everybody and our community is aware of that as well. But on the whole, thank you very much, and keep these reports coming because they are really exciting and informative.
Do you wish to comment at all back?
Through you, Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to go and try and split some of the Aberdeenshire-wide data that we have down to a more area level and go around area committees as appropriate with that data. We can certainly do it with some of our business gateway data. We can do it down to an area level, and others we can certainly give examples of businesses and activities that we're doing at an area level. So yeah, happy to go back and start doing that work.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Davidson. Councillor Carr, George, please.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I would echo Councillor Davidson's point about this. It's been a very positive paper, but I think these things don't just happen. The climate for attracting economic activity is quite fickle, and it means there's a lot of moving parts to this to make it happen. That means making Aberdeenshire an attractive place for people to come to. We need to be looking at the environment. We need to be looking at how we're managing Aberdeenshire, how it looks. How we're cutting our grass, spraying our weeds. All these sort of things are vital. And when you look at the contrast with the city at the moment, I think it's really important that we learn lessons as to why we are succeeding and why there are question marks about the city at the moment for economic activity and where people want to locate. So I think that's really important. At the end of the paper, there was a bit about funding, and it's good to see that you're going to be chasing every opportunity to attract external funding, because I'm aware some of that's closed down. I went along with some colleagues here to the opening of the Edsall Woods Hub, which is also in the paper. That's a great example of something that just wouldn't have happened without a wee bit of pump priming from elsewhere, but it's been a great success story, and it's just starting off, actually, and those of us that were there just were inspired by that and the effect it's had in the wider community in a part of Aberdeenshire where they really are needing a bit of support. So I think there's a lot of really good things happening here, but I think councillors and officers have all got to take note as to why we're being more successful than others and not rest on our laurels on this, because it is a big challenge to keep that activity going. But well done to all for the efforts so far. Thank you.
Do you wish to add?
I will certainly pass on those thanks to the team, and certainly we are ongoing work in terms of promoting Aberdeenshire and the region as a place to come and invest and work and live, and there's work ongoing with that, partly through the North East Scotland investment zone, but also part of our wider work as well. So yeah, the promotion of Aberdeenshire is a key part of the work that we're doing and links into everything else.
Okay, George. Okay. So, Councillor Johnston, Paul, please.
You're on mute, Councillor Johnston.
Sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, I would also add my congratulations on the report to all of the team, saying how good it was. And echo Councillor Davidson's remarks. Just wanted to ask a techie question regarding the grant finder availability. Grant finder has been available to every community business and etc. via AVA for quite some time, and I believe parliamentarians get access to reports from grant finder to aid particular individuals. Just wanted to make sure that this isn't a duplicate or what have you. I just wanted to, could somebody clarify more detail about grant finder availability, please? Who can use it?
Kelly, please.
Certainly the grant finder within our team, we have a few licenses that Business Gateway and our external funding, the investments and projects team have access to, and they can look up things on behalf of colleagues within the council, but also any community groups that come forward to us, we're able to pull reports and get back to them. I'm not sure, you've mentioned Ava and parliamentarians, I'm not sure who else has access to Grant Finder, but we've certainly only had access in the last year or so. We did it as a trial to see whether it was useful, and certainly within the last year we found it incredibly useful to be able to, even if we had a community group come to us asking for funding, if we weren't able to support them, it was very useful to be able to highlight where they might be able to get support elsewhere. So we've certainly found it incredibly useful to either support community groups in terms of match funding or be able to signpost them elsewhere.
Okay, Councillor Johnston.
Yeah, that's good. Just worried that we don't end up duplicating what it should be done by the AVA as the interface body for the third sector. We would be ashamed to waste a resource. So, but yes, I accept it. It's good news. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. Councillor Smith, Stephen, please.
Thank you, Chair, and yeah, very much welcome the report. Excuse me. Just a couple of questions regarding Appendix 1 on page 65 or page 22, depending which one you're looking at. Point 6 mentions the Aberdeenshire Towns Forum. I just wondered if where members can access detail of that. It says it's enabling business associations to support members through the Towns Forum. I'm wondering where a town doesn't have a business association, is there still opportunities to engage there? And also in terms of the Peterhead Neighbourhood Board, is there any interaction between it and the Towns Forum or vice versa? Point underneath that, point 7 mentions establishing town centre dashboards. I'm just wondering if members can get access to that, and again, has that been shared with the Peterhead Neighbourhood Forum, Peterhead Neighbourhood Board? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. In terms of Aberdeenshire Towns Forum, we have a new Town Centre executive, Emma, so she will certainly be leading on that. In terms of the Aberdeenshire Towns dashboard, I will find out whether councillors can access it or not, because I'm not sure, but I can certainly get back to you on that one. If not, we can certainly supply information to you. In terms of the Peterhead Neighbourhood Board, we work closely with the Peterhead Neighbourhood Board with the current project manager used to work in economic development and is currently on secondment doing that. So we have very good relationships with the Peterhead Neighbourhood Board, and trying to ensure that there isn't any duplication with the work we're doing. All the work that is happening is complementary. So there is definitely good communication between the Peterhead Neighbourhood Board and ourselves.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Smith. I think if you could let us all know in terms of that, because it might actually help with some of the other points and questions that's been raised earlier. Okay, thank you, Kelly. Okay, I see no more hands from members on this particular paper, so I will draw us back to page 40 in the agenda pack, of which we have 2 recommendations. The first is to note, and the second to advise whether the committee wish to continue to receive biannual reports on this subject. And I would say we do, but are we content to agree those recommendations, obviously the way they're set out, and continue to receive biannual reports? Agreed, agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, that takes us to item 6, and it's an item for noting, and it is the minute of the meeting of the North East Scotland Agricultural Advisory Group from 26th November 2025. I would note it. Yes. Okay. Okay, that would conclude our meeting today, and I should say I would ask that meeting is now concluded. Thank you for your attendance and participation. Thank you very much. If we could stop the recording.